Madeline Rivers, 30 years old, and for most of my life, I watched my father build our family's electrical engineering firm, while reminding me over and over that I'd never belong. Despite earning my MBA and holding certifications he couldn't even name, he told me I wasn't wired for the industry. He barred me from leadership and said I should look for something more suited to women. But life, as it often does, came full circle. Just last month, during a major client presentation in Dallas, the CEO of a renewable energy firm looked my father square in the eye and said something that stunned the room. "Actually, I report to your daughter." The silence that followed was golden. My father's expression, worth everything. If you're watching this, drop a comment and let me know where you're tuning in from. And if you've ever been underestimated by your own family, smash that like button and subscribe. Let me tell you how I went from being the forgotten child to running the very industry that cast me out. Growing up in Amarillo, Texas, Rivers Electric wasn't just a company, it was our family's identity. I spent my childhood trailing behind linemen on job sites, inhaling sawdust and wire casing like it was perfume. My dad, Gerald Rivers, always had my younger brother Carson by his side, teaching him to wire panels and read engineering diagrams before he even learned long division. Carson was the heir apparent, even though he showed zero interest beyond the paycheck. Meanwhile, I hovered near the edges, taking notes and soaking in everything I could. My mom, Tracy, tried to slip me into the admin office on slow afternoons. "You've got a knack for process," she'd whisper, showing me scheduling systems and compliance codes. I loved it, but when Dad caught wind of it, he'd appear in the doorway with a frown. "This isn't the place for you, Mads," he'd say. "Let Carson handle it." And just like that, I'd be dismissed, sent home, while Carson was handed responsibilities he didn't even want. I didn't pout. I planned. While Carson was out drinking with friends and barely showing up on time, I was buried in textbooks, grinding through engineering electives before heading to Columbia Business School. I graduated in 2019 with honors, then pursued my MBA focused on infrastructure and sustainable systems. Every paper, every late-night coffee, every unpaid internship, I took it all in stride, determined to return stronger. Rivers Electric had once been innovative. My grandfather, Henry Rivers, founded it in 1973 with little more than a beat-up van and a set of worn pliers. He built it into a respected regional firm specializing in municipal and commercial contracts. By the time Dad took over in 2001, the company had 25 employees and a decent name. But by the time I returned home in 2023, degree in hand, I saw clearly what my father refused to admit: the industry had changed. And Rivers Electric hadn't kept up. Their methods were outdated. The company's scheduling still relied on paper logs. The technology, barely functional. They'd lost 3 key municipal contracts in the last year to firms using drone surveys and energy-efficient design platforms. It didn't take long for me to realize Rivers Electric wasn't just behind, it was sinking. So I got to work. Over the course of 6 months, I built a full modernization blueprint, a phased plan that introduced digital project tracking, sustainable energy solutions, and strategic expansion into sectors like solar infrastructure and smart building technology. I crafted a client portfolio of tech parks in school districts looking for green-certified contractors. Everything was backed by data forecasts and pilot programs. The day I flew back home from New York, I laid my degrees on my childhood bed, the MBA from Columbia and the earlier BS from Rice. I ran my hand over the gold lettering and imagined the look on my father's face when I showed him what I'd accomplished. I even included screenshots of the new company website I designed, sleek and accessible. I bought a crisp navy blazer and charcoal slacks for that night, wanting to project the confidence I'd earned. In the mirror, I practiced my pitch over and over. Rivers Electric isn't just providing power, I rehearsed. We're powering progress. The tagline had come to me during a class on branding and legacy. It felt right. It honored our roots while pushing us forward. I wanted to show him I wasn't coming in to tear things down. I was here to help rebuild. The sun was just beginning to set as I pulled into my parents' gravel driveway in Amarillo. Their ranch-style house, once a one-bedroom cottage my grandfather wired himself, now stood proudly with a wraparound porch and solar panels I'd once suggested, and my father had stubbornly refused. Through the kitchen window, I caught a glimpse of my mom lighting candles. That alone gave me hope. She never brought out the good china unless something mattered. I stepped inside and was instantly hit by the scent of rosemary and garlic. Mads is home. My mom beamed, pulling me into a long hug. And dressed like a CEO already. She looked me over with teary eyes and pride shining through. "Gerald Carson, come see Madeline." Dad stepped in from his study, wiping his hands on a shop towel, while Carson glanced up briefly from his phone. "Hey," Dad mumbled, offering a short one-armed hug. "Welcome back." "Congrats," Mads Carson muttered without eye contact. Dinner was perfect. Roasted chicken garlic potatoes and warm rolls, my childhood favorites. My mom carried the conversation, asking about Manhattan, my professors, my internships. Meanwhile, Dad and Carson swapped stories about warehouse delays and labor issues. I waited patiently, biding my time. I didn't want to interrupt the rhythm, but as dessert arrived, my mom's signature peach cobbler, I knew it was time. I reached into my leather portfolio, a graduation gift from Professor Hale, and carefully pulled out my presentation. My hands trembled slightly. "Dad," I said, voice steady, "I have something I want to show you. Dad, I've been thinking." I began trying to keep my voice even despite the pounding in my chest. "Now that I've finished my MBA, I'd like to officially join Rivers Electric. I've developed some ideas that could really help modernize our operations and expand our reach." For a moment, the only sound in the dining room was the soft clink of silverware. My father slowly set down his fork and looked across the table at Carson. That silent exchange between them said more than words ever could. "Madeline," he said finally, his voice dipping into the familiar, condescending tone I knew too well. Electric contracting is a man's industry. Always has been. Always will be. "I'm glad you got your degree, but it doesn't mean you're ready to step into leadership." The words hit like cold water. "But Dad?" I pressed, trying not to let the hurt show my concentration was in infrastructure and sustainability. "I graduated top of my class. I know how to bring us into the future digital project tracking energy-efficient solutions." He cut me off with a dismissive wave. "That's just textbook nonsense. You can't learn this business from behind a desk. Carson's been with me since he was 16. He understands the trade." Carson leaned back with a smug grin. "It's nothing personal, Mads. It's just different when you've been in the field." Dad nodded, as if that settled it. "If you really want to be involved, we do need someone to take over the front desk. Gloria's retiring next month. That could be a good place to start." "A receptionist?" I repeated, stunned. "You're offering me a desk job after I earned an MBA? Carson didn't even finish community college, and he's your lead project manager." My father's jaw tightened. "Watch your tone." Why, I asked. "Because I'm pointing out the truth. I've worked my tail off for years, while Carson partied through most of his 20s. I came back with tools to help the company grow, and you won't even hear me out." "What have you done besides sit in classrooms?" he snapped. I reached into my bag and pulled out the binder I'd been working on for months, my plan to bring Rivers Electric into the future. I've studied this company's trends, compared contracts, analyzed client feedback. I've built a strategy that could boost revenue and open up new markets. I slid the binder toward him. He didn't touch it. "We don't need your fancy fixes," he said, leaning back with folded arms. "Rivers Electric has been just fine for 50 years. But we're not fine." I shot back, my voice trembling. "We've lost 3 major bids in the last year alone to companies using modern methods. The TechWorks contract, the Amarillo Civic Center upgrade, and the Westlake solar grid. All gone." His face turned red. "You've been snooping in company affairs?" "It's public data, Dad," I replied. "I've been doing research." He shoved back from the table. "Enough." His chair scraped sharply across the floor. "Let me be clear, you will never hold a leadership role at Rivers Electric. Not now, not ever." I sat frozen, binder, still open, the air, heavy with finality. My mother's breath caught. "Gerald, please stay out of this." "Tracy," he snapped, not even looking at her. "This is business." His words landed with a sharpness that made my chest tighten. The finality in his tone sent a chill through my entire body. 30 years. That's how long I dreamed of helping build something lasting with my family. 4 years of undergrad, 2 grueling years of MBA coursework wiped out in a single sentence. Carson, for once, didn't look smug. If anything, he seemed uncomfortable, like he knew deep down this wasn't right. But still, he said nothing. Under the table, my mom reached for my hand and gave it a gentle squeeze. I wanted to cry, but I held it together. My hands trembled as I gathered the rejected binder, the pages that had taken me months to perfect. "May I be excused?" I asked quietly. Without waiting for an answer, I stood and walked away. Later that night, my mom found me in my old bedroom folding clothes into a suitcase I dug out from under the bed. She sat on the edge of the mattress with a heaviness in her eyes I hadn't seen before. "He doesn't mean it, Madeline," she said gently. I paused, then continued folding. "Yeah, Mom, he does." She looked down, her voice cracking. "He's stuck in his ways. I should have prepared you for this. The truth is, your father always planned for the company to go to Carson, even when you were kids. That was always the plan. The pain settled deeper than I expected. So when you encouraged me to get my MBA to study business, what was that for?" I hoped, she whispered. "I thought maybe if you were overqualified, he'd come around. But I was wrong. And I'm so sorry." I zipped the suitcase shut, the sound slicing through the silence like a blade. "Don't be sorry, Mom. Be grateful I'm not giving up." She blinked. "What do you mean?" "If Rivers Electric won't have me, fine. I'll go somewhere that will." I didn't work this hard to be someone's receptionist. The next morning, I loaded my car with everything that had once felt safe and familiar now, just memories packed into boxes. I looked back at the house I'd grown up in, the place my grandfather had wired from foundation to roof. It was beautiful, and not mine. The rejection burned, but underneath the hurt, something else stirred. Resolve. If my own family couldn't see my value, then I'd prove it to the world. The first week after that dinner, I barely moved. My apartment stayed dark. I kept the blinds drawn and cycled through a storm of emotions, rage, betrayal, sadness so thick it clung to my skin. The degrees on my wall felt like a cruel joke. All that debt, all those nights studying, for what my phone lit up with texts from Mom. "Are you okay? Please call me." I didn't respond. What could I even say? Then on day 8, my former professor, Amanda Chen, called. When I ignored her, she showed up in person. 2 coffees in hand and a look that could cut steel. "This isn't the Madeline Rivers, I know," she said, marching into my apartment without waiting for permission. Amanda yanked open the curtains, letting a flood of sunlight wash over the dust and gloom I'd let settle in my apartment. The student who challenged every system in my advanced operations course wouldn't be hiding like this, she said firmly. I collapsed onto the couch with a sigh. That Madeline thought she'd be part of her family's legacy? Amanda took the armchair across from me, still perfectly composed in her navy blazer. And this Madeline, she countered, gets to build her own legacy. Isn't that more exciting? I didn't answer, but something in her tone, her absolute belief in me, cut through the fog I'd been living in. "The industry needs you, Madeline," she went on. "Electrical contracting is crying out for people who understand modern systems and long-term sustainability. If your family can't see that, trust me, someone else will." And just like that, something inside me shifted. Not fully healed, but reignited. That afternoon, Amanda helped me polish my resume and walk through mock interviews. By evening, I'd submitted applications to 10 different electrical and infrastructure development firms across North and Central Texas. The days that followed were a crash course in humility. Despite my glowing academic record, most interviews ended with the same polite response. "We're looking for someone with more hands-on experience." The irony was crushing. I couldn't get hired because I didn't have experience, and I couldn't get experience because no one would hire me. After the 15th rejection, I called Amanda in frustration. "They all say the same thing," I groaned. "How can I get experience if no one gives me a chance?" Her voice on the other end was calm but firm. Then change your approach. Start lower than you planned. Prove yourself. The right people will notice. It wasn't easy to hear, but I listened. I widened my search and began applying for entry-level positions I would have overlooked just weeks earlier. After another round of interviews, 7 more to be exact, I finally got an offer. Apex Development's a mid-sized firm in Lubbock, known for their focus on smart grid infrastructure and sustainable urban projects. The role, Junior Project Coordinator. The pay was just enough to keep the lights on and make minimum payments on my loans. It was a far cry from what I expected post-MBA, but it was a start. On day 1, I showed up an hour early, wearing my sharpest outfit and my most determined mindset. Diana Morris, my supervisor, met me in the conference room. "Your resume is impressive, Rivers," she said flatly. "But here, we care more about what you can do than what you've studied. Show me results." "Understood," I replied. Challenge accepted. I dove into the role head first. While my hours officially ended at 5, I regularly stayed past 7, sometimes 8. Learning Apex's systems, mastering their digital platforms, and combing through past project logs to spot patterns. When others avoided the grunt, work tracking permits, handling vendor scheduling, I raised my hand every time. I knew those tasks held the secrets to understanding real operations. 2 months in, I discovered a serious flaw in how Apex tracked deliveries across job sites. On my own time, I built a streamlined digital tracking tool to fix it. I didn't present it immediately. I had a better plan. I started by testing the system on a few small-scale Apex projects, quietly tracking metrics and documenting the improvements. Within 3 weeks, I had clear evidence: reduced material delays, improved vendor coordination, and fewer rescheduled inspections. Once the numbers spoke for themselves, I scheduled a meeting with Diana and her boss, Vincent Parker, Apex's operations director. They entered the room with raised eyebrows and crossed arms, clearly expecting a junior coordinator to pitch some textbook theory. But as I walked them through the dashboards, time logs, and cost savings breakdown, their skepticism melted into curiosity. "How long would it take to scale this across the board?" Vincent asked, leaning forward. "I can train the team within 2 weeks," I answered without hesitation. He exchanged a glance with Diana, then nodded. "Let's make it happen." Implementation went better than I anticipated. Delivery errors dropped by 72% in just the first month. But I didn't stop there. I had noticed another issue: our clients only received weekly email updates. It left them guessing about progress, fueling anxiety and unnecessary phone calls. So I developed a secure online portal where they could log in anytime to view real-time updates, milestone tracking, and site photos. When we rolled it out, the response was instant. Clients loved it. One in particular, the owner of a growing restaurant chain, was so impressed, he called Vincent directly to thank him. "Who came up with this?" I overheard him ask Diana later that day. "The new coordinator?" she replied, glancing at me across the office. "Madeline Rivers. She's been full of surprises." 6 months into my role, I started receiving invitations to client meetings. My experience with sustainable infrastructure, once brushed aside, suddenly became an asset. More and more clients were asking for green solutions, and while many on the team saw these as costly upgrades, I reframed them as value-driven investments. I demonstrated how solar integration, smart thermostats, and recycled materials could lower lifetime costs. One client was hesitant about solar panels until I ran a cost-benefit analysis showing a full ROI in 3 years. That sealed the deal. After that meeting, Gregory Barnes, Apex's CEO, pulled me aside. "Most folks in construction try to sell clients the fastest, cheapest option," he said. "You're selling them a better future. That's rare." His words lit a fire in me. Every win at Apex was another stone laid in the foundation of my own legacy, one far removed from the shadow of Rivers Electric and the father who dismissed me. Outside of work, I pushed myself even further. I attended every industry networking event I could find. While others chatted in circles with peers, I sought out the veterans, asking about challenges they'd overcome, mistakes they'd made, and what they wished they'd known starting out. At one event hosted in Fort Worth, I was introduced to Evelyn Rodriguez, a legend in the industry and the first licensed female general contractor in the city. I shared a piece of my story, expecting polite encouragement. Instead, she let out a knowing chuckle and said, "Oh, honey, you're just getting started. Sweetheart, I've been hearing that construction is a man's world. Nonsense. For 40 years, Evelyn said, her voice rough with grit and wisdom earned on job sites, long before women were welcome there. But you know what I tell them? Buildings don't care who builds them. They just care that it's done right." Her words stuck with me. They became a kind of mantra, especially on the hard days. Days when self-doubt crept in. Days when I heard from old contacts in Amarillo that Carson, yes, Carson, had just been promoted to vice president of Rivers Electric. This, after a commercial project he mismanaged, came in 6 weeks late and nearly 20% over budget. Meanwhile, I was laying brick by brick on a foundation of my own. Not my father's, not my grandfather's, mine. It wasn't easy, but it was honest. It was earned. And month by month, people started to notice. 8 months into my time at Apex, Diana called me into her office. I assumed it was our usual review, but when I stepped inside, Gregory Barnes was there too. "Madeline," he said, motioning for me to sit. "Your client satisfaction scores are the highest in the company. That client portal you built? It's revolutionized the way we communicate. 3 clients have specifically requested to work with you again." Diana nodded, her smile proud but composed. "We're promoting you to account manager. You'll lead your own projects and manage a dedicated portfolio." I blinked, stunned. "Seriously?" "Seriously," Gregory said. "It's overdue." The promotion came with a real office, small but mine, a corner desk, a window with a view of the Lubbock skyline, and a salary that finally gave me breathing room with my student loans. On my first day in that office, I bought a small ficus tree and placed it by the window, a symbol of new roots, ones I planted myself. I didn't approach the role the way others did. While most account managers focused on deadlines and budgets alone, I asked bigger questions. What's the long-term goal of this business? Who will use this space, and how can we make it better for them? For retail clients, I analyzed customer flow to suggest layout tweaks that would increase sales. For office clients, I researched natural light and airflow to boost productivity and morale. I wasn't just building structures, I was helping clients build better businesses. That's how the Sustainable Business Spaces Initiative was born. It integrated energy-efficient lighting, smart climate systems, recycled materials, and biophilic design, bringing natural elements indoors to support well-being. But what made it stick was my focus on measurable ROI. I didn't sell clients on vague environmental ideals. I showed them real savings, real returns, and happier end users. When Apex officially launched the program, they asked me to present it at the Regional Green Building Conference. The turnout was overwhelming and the reception even better. After my talk, I was approached by half a dozen potential clients. One stood out: Natalie Winters, Director of Development at Brookside Medical Group. She had 3 outpatient clinics in the pipeline, and she wanted to talk. "Our board is open to sustainability," Natalie Winters said, leaning forward across the cafe table. "But they're concerned about cost. Every other firm has pitched us on doing the right thing for the planet. But that doesn't get far with our CFO." I gave her a small nod and reached for my tablet. "Then, let me show you why it's not just the right thing, it's the smart thing." I pulled up detailed financial projections I'd built specifically for Brookside Medical Group. A conventional build might save 5% upfront, I explained, but within 7 years, your sustainable facility will recoup the difference through energy savings alone. And that's not factoring in staff retention, due to better working environments or the potential boost in patient satisfaction from healing-focused design. Natalie studied the charts. "So, it's not about paying more. It's about choosing where the savings show up." "Exactly," I said. "This isn't a cost, it's an investment with measurable return." 2 weeks later, Brookside signed with Apex for all 3 of their upcoming facilities. They requested me personally as project lead. Word spread quickly. My approach, data-backed sustainability, wasn't just a breath of fresh air. It was a business model. Invitations began rolling in panel discussions, keynote slots at construction expos, guest articles in trade publications. Each appearance brought new leads, new opportunities, and new clients who came to Apex asking for the sustainability expert. Meanwhile, rumors about Rivers Electric drifted to me through mutual contacts. Longtime clients were walking away. Carson's mishandling of the Westridge Office Park project had led to a 6-month delay and an embarrassing incident involving faulty electrical work that had to be completely redone. Then one evening, my phone buzzed. It was Mom. "Your father won't say it out loud," she said softly, "but the company's in serious trouble. Carson authorized material substitutions without reviewing the specs. They're ripping out 3 floors of wiring." My emotions collided. Sympathy, sadness, frustration, and yes, a small flicker of vindication. I had warned them about this kind of oversight. The modernization plan I proposed would have caught that, I said gently. Maybe Dad would be open to some consulting help. She laughed, but it wasn't amused. It was tired, bitter. "He'd rather let Rivers Electric collapse than admit you were right, Madeline." I let the silence sit there, then said, "Okay, I understand." But in truth, I couldn't let myself dwell on it. I had built something of my own. 18 months after my promotion, Gregory Barnes called me into his office. "We're restructuring," he said, "and I want you to head up our new division director of sustainable development. You'll lead a team of 5. Your work's been transformational. The title was exciting, the team even more so." But the real thrill came weeks later when Gregory handed me a thick file. "Celestial Developments," he said, tapping the logo. "They're planning a new headquarters, 20 stories, mixed use. The most innovative design yet. Every firm wants in, including Rivers Electric. But this is your project to pitch. Lead the team. Win this." And just like that, everything I'd worked for pointed to this moment. If you've ever been told you weren't enough only to rise higher than anyone expected, don't forget to subscribe and follow along. Because what happened next at the Celestial pitch changed everything. Our pitch meeting with Celestial Developments was set for a Friday afternoon. I arrived an hour early, pacing outside their glass-paneled headquarters in downtown Dallas, reviewing my slides and trying to calm the storm of nerves inside me. This was the opportunity of a lifetime, and I was determined to own it. When I was finally led into the boardroom, I came face to face with Thomas Bennett, Celestial's CEO, a man known for his sharp mind, visionary projects, and famously high expectations. "Ms. Rivers," he said, shaking my hand firmly, "your reputation precedes you. I read your article in Construction Innovation Quarterly last month. Impressive work." That small comment bolstered my confidence more than he knew. What was supposed to be a 1-hour presentation stretched into 3 full hours. Thomas and his executive team engaged deeply with our vision, asking pointed questions, challenging assumptions, but staying completely invested. I walked them through sustainable construction methods, biophilic integration, and ROI breakdowns. My dual fluency in green innovation and financial outcomes clearly struck a chord. Most firms send sales reps who can recite buzzwords, Thomas remarked near the end. But you actually understand the science and the economics. It's refreshing. 2 weeks later, Gregory Barnes called an all-company meeting at Apex's main office. With an excited gleam in his eye, he stood before the crowd. "I'm thrilled to announce," he said, "that Apex Developments has officially secured the Celestial Headquarters project, the largest contract in our firm's history." Cheers erupted. Gregory called me to the front to recognize my leadership in the win. The applause washed over me, but my mind couldn't help drifting for a moment. Would the news reach Gerald and Carson back in Amarillo? That evening, as I celebrated with my team at a lively restaurant on Magnolia Avenue, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. It was a screenshot of a business headline, "Apex lands landmark Celestial deal," led by director Madeline Rivers. The message underneath was just 3 words, "Proud of you." Evelyn Rodriguez, the woman who had seen potential in me before I saw it in myself, was still watching. Her message meant more than the validation I had once begged from my father. It reminded me why I kept pushing. That night, as laughter echoed around me and glasses clinked, I realized something profound. I had built a home, not with drywall and cables, but through people who respected me, trusted me, and valued my ideas. And this was only the beginning. The Celestial headquarters quickly became my full-time focus. Over the next 6 months, I worked side by side with Thomas Bennett. He wasn't just a client, he was a true collaborator. We spoke daily, swapping ideas over morning calls and late-night sketches. The problem with most green buildings, he told me once, is they're designed to look sustainable, not feel livable. I nodded. Exactly. True sustainability isn't about showing off. It's about longevity, creating spaces people love enough to keep using. That idea became our guiding star in visible sustainability features that elevated performance without compromising beauty, purpose, or comfort. We integrated a suite of cutting-edge technologies into the Celestial headquarters. Among them, advanced water recycling systems, cleverly hidden within the building's architectural core, photovoltaic glass that generated electricity without the bulk of traditional solar panels, and a state-of-the-art HVAC system that improved air quality while slashing energy use by 40%. But our partnership with Thomas Bennett evolved far beyond sustainability features. One afternoon during a tense review meeting, I noticed him rubbing his temples while scrolling through a cluttered project report. These systems either bury me in irrelevant detail or give me nothing helpful, he muttered. I might have something better, I offered cautiously. Over the past year, in my spare time, I had been developing a project visualization dashboard, a dynamic tool that translated construction data into clean, easy-to-understand visuals. With it, clients could track progress, flag potential issues before they escalated, and see the cost impact of decisions in real time. I pulled up a beta version on my tablet and walked him through it. This, Thomas said, eyebrows raised, is exactly what I've been needing. Can we use it for this project? With some customization for Celestial's needs? Absolutely. We integrated the dashboard into the headquarters build, and it transformed the process. Decision-making became faster, smarter, and far more transparent. In the end, it saved Celestial millions by helping us identify optimization opportunities early. Thomas was so taken with it that he began showing it off to his board, his business partners, even a few tech publications. Madeline's changed how we manage construction. I overheard him telling a reporter during a site tour. We're rolling out her system across all our projects. The success of the Celestial headquarters, combined with the tool I'd created, led to the next major chapter in my career. Exactly 24 months after I joined Apex Developments as a junior project coordinator, Gregory Barnes made another company-wide announcement. I'm proud to promote Madeline Rivers to Director of Client Relations, he said during our quarterly all-hands meeting. Madeline exemplifies what Apex stands for: innovation excellence and client-centered leadership. In her new role, she'll oversee strategic partnerships and help shape our approach to key accounts. Applause filled the room. I stood quietly humbled, remembering those early days when I felt invisible at my own family's dinner table. With the promotion came new responsibilities and new ethical challenges. During a strategy session, Vincent Parker suggested a bold growth move. Walker Electric's recent missteps have opened doors, he said. We could go after their riverfront development clients. Word is they're frustrated after multiple quality issues. Suddenly, the room went still. Everyone looked at me. Though I had never hidden my family ties, I rarely brought them up. Still, the weight of my last name hung in the room like humidity before a storm. I have a personal conflict, I said carefully. While I fully support Apex's expansion, I'd prefer not to participate in any direct effort to poach Rivers Electric's clients. Gregory met my gaze, steady and understanding. Understood, he said. We'll grow through other channels. Later that afternoon, Gregory Barnes stopped by my office. He leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, his expression thoughtful. That was professional of you, he said. Most people would have jumped at the chance to exploit insider knowledge. Settle old scores. I gave a small shrug. I'm not interested in tearing Rivers Electric down, I said honestly. All I ever wanted was a chance to help build it up. But that door was closed and locked long ago. He nodded, understanding more in my tone than the words themselves. The conversation shifted to our expansion strategy. Gregory outlined several markets where Apex's sustainability expertise could give us an edge: urban redevelopment projects in Austin, mid-tier cities looking to modernize infrastructure. As we spoke, he mentioned something that made my heart pause. Celestial is planning their biggest project yet, he said. A mixed-use development residential office retail spanning 3 city blocks. Thomas says the vision is bold and complex. They're opening it up to bids next week. I leaned forward. Are we in the running? Definitely. But it's competitive. Every major firm wants in, including Rivers Electric. My stomach tightened. Has Thomas said anything specific about them? I asked, keeping my tone even. He mentioned your father's been. Persistent. Called him personally more than once. I nodded slowly, keeping my expression neutral, even as memories stirred. My father dismissing my credentials. My brother inheriting roles he never earned. That evening, my phone rang. It was Thomas Bennett, a rare after-hours call. Madeline, he said gently, I wanted to give you a heads up. We're scheduling final presentations for the Parkside District project next Tuesday. Got it, I said cautiously. There's something else. Your father doesn't know you work for Apex, especially not on our account. I never mentioned it. I blinked. He doesn't know? No. When he spoke about his daughter in the industry, I assumed he was proud of you. Later, I connected the dots and realized things might be complicated. I exhaled slowly, the mix of shock and inevitability settling in. So, what are you suggesting? Nothing specific, Thomas replied. Just thought you deserved to be prepared. Apex, Rivers Electric, and 2 other firms are on the final shortlist. After thanking him for the courtesy, I sat on the edge of my bed that night, staring at my reflection in the darkened window. Part of me wanted to withdraw, to avoid the awkwardness, the confrontation, the chance that everything I'd built might unravel in the shadow of old wounds. But the stronger part, the woman I'd become, refused to shrink. The next morning, I walked into Gregory's office, with resolve in my step. Thomas let me know Rivers Electric is also pitching for Parkside, I said. He believes they still don't know I'm leading Apex's team. Gregory looked up from his notes. Do you want to sit this one out? I straightened my shoulders. No. I've earned my seat at that table. If my father and brother can't handle seeing me there, that's their issue, not mine. He smiled slightly. Then let's go win it. Gregory smiled, that calm, steady confidence in his eyes. That's what I hoped you'd say, he said. Let's make sure our presentation is bulletproof. We've got 5 days. For the rest of the week, our team worked with laser focus preparing for the Parkside District presentation. We built on everything we'd learned from the Celestial headquarters, refining energy systems, pushing the envelope on integrated green infrastructure, and improving our ROI modeling tools. I rehearsed my section endlessly until I could present in my sleep, anticipating tough questions and building crisp data-backed responses for every angle. The night before the pitch, my phone rang. It was Mom, Madeline. She said softly, I just wanted to wish you luck tomorrow. I froze. How did you know? Your father and Carson have been preparing their Celestial proposal for weeks. It's all they talk about. When I heard Apex was also in the running, well, I figured it out. There was a pause. I know it's complicated, she added, but I'm proud of you, no matter what happens. Her quiet support, unspoken for so long, filled something in me I hadn't realized was still empty. After we hung up, I laid out my navy pantsuit and a silver necklace Evelyn had given me. I felt surprisingly calm. No matter what happened tomorrow, I would walk into that room not as someone seeking approval, but as someone who had earned her place. That morning, the skies over Dallas were cloudless and sharp. I arrived at Apex's local office early to review everything one last time with Gregory and our pitch team. We checked our renderings, final financials, and custom dashboards. My phone buzzed just before we left. Good luck today. Remember who you are. Mom. I stared at the message for a long second, then smiled. I knew exactly who I was. We arrived at Celestial Developments 30 minutes before our scheduled time. As we waited in the reception area, I watched representatives from Modernized Construction file out, followed by a team from Urbania Builders. On the receptionist's desk, a digital schedule confirmed the order: Modernized Urbania Apex, then Rivers Electric. At exactly 11:00, Thomas Bennett's assistant appeared. "Apex, we're ready for you." We followed her into the glass-walled boardroom. Gregory and I began setting up our materials, while the rest of the team connected the screens and arranged printed project boards. The door opened again. Thomas entered with several Celestial executives I recognized from earlier phases. "Madeline, Gregory. Good to see you both," he said, smiling warmly. "We're a bit ahead of schedule today. We've decided to have Rivers Electric sit in during your presentation rather than waiting outside. Hope that's all right?" Before I could say a word, the door opened again. Gerald Rivers, Carson Rivers, and two project managers I didn't recognize stepped into the room. My father's eyes locked with mine, his jaw clenched. My brother blinked in confusion, clearly not expecting to see me, but I stood tall, expression neutral, heart steady, because I wasn't here for them. The shock on their faces when they saw me standing confidently at the head of the conference table would have been comical if it weren't so personal. "What is she doing here?" My father, Gerald Rivers, barked, his voice sharp with disbelief and the kind of disapproval I'd known all my life. Thomas Bennett didn't flinch. He simply raised an eyebrow. "Ms. Rivers is Apex Development's Director of Client Relations. Her team will present their proposal for the Parkside District today, as will yours." My father's face flushed an angry shade of red. "There must be some mistake," he growled. "Madeline has no experience in construction management." The room fell still. Gregory Barnes, calm but firm, stepped forward. "Actually, Madeline has led our collaboration with Celestial for over a year, including the Celestial Headquarters project, which was delivered under budget and ahead of schedule." Across the room, Carson stared at me. His usual smirk had faded, replaced by something between confusion and was that respect? But my father was unmoved. "Thomas," he said, ignoring me entirely, "you've known me for 15 years. You can't seriously be taking advice from someone who learned construction from textbooks instead of the field." Thomas kept his expression neutral, but his voice took on a cooler tone. "Gerald, if you have concerns about our partnerships, perhaps we can discuss them privately." "I don't need privacy to state facts," my father snapped. "She's my daughter. I know what experience she does and doesn't have." I drew in a deep breath and found something unexpected clarity. I was no longer the girl desperate for approval. "Dad," I said, my voice steady, "this isn't the place for family arguments. We're here to present professional proposals for a major project." He scoffed. "You've been out of school for 3 years? And now you think you can go head-to-head with a company that's been building in this city for 3 generations. Before I could respond, Thomas stepped forward, his expression unshaken, but his tone edged with steel. "Gerald, that's enough." The room froze. Thomas turned to face the boardroom. "Everyone here was invited based on merit, innovation, and results. That includes Apex and Madeline." Gerald narrowed his eyes. "So you're taking her side now? After everything Walker Construction has done for you over the years?" The air was thick with tension as Thomas squared his shoulders. "Actually," he said clearly, "I report to your daughter." The words landed like thunder. My father blinked. "What did you say?" Thomas didn't hesitate. "Madeline is Celestial's account director for all sustainable development projects. The headquarters build, which she led, has been featured in 3 national publications for its innovation. The project management system she designed has saved us millions and is being adopted across all our properties. You could have heard a pin drop." My father's face went blank, eyes wide, mouth slightly open. The man who once told me I didn't belong in this industry now stood stunned in front of a room full of professionals who saw exactly what he didn't. If anything, Thomas Bennett said evenly, I should be asking why Rivers Electric hasn't been utilizing her talents. My father, Gerald Rivers, stood speechless, glancing between Thomas and me like he was trying to force logic into a worldview that no longer fit. His face, flushed jaw clenched. Carson took a step forward, placing a hand on our father's arm. "Dad, Maybe we should reschedule. This isn't the time. Gerald shook him off. We're not going anywhere. I want to hear exactly what my daughter thinks she can offer that we can't. Thomas looked to me, silently, asking if I wanted to proceed. I gave a small nod. I was ready. Very well, he said. Since both teams are present, let's adapt the format. Each firm will present their vision for Parkside District, followed by a joint Q&A session. As I moved to the front of the room, Gregory Barnes gave my shoulder a firm, reassuring squeeze. I drew in a breath and stepped into the moment, letting the tension roll off me like water. I began Apex's presentation without acknowledging the confrontation that had just unfolded. For the next 45 minutes, I laid out our bold vision for a future-ready, sustainable urban district that would redefine mixed-use development in the region. I spoke about advanced construction techniques, modular energy systems, smart water conservation, and community-centered design. Our financial model projected strong near-term returns with significant long-term gains, all backed by data and case studies, including Celestial's own headquarters. I answered every question from the executive panel with clarity and composure. Out of the corner of my eye, I could see my father watching, first skeptical, then puzzled, and finally reluctantly attentive. When it was Rivers Electric's turn, Gerald stepped back, allowing Carson to take the lead. Their proposal was competent, but predictable. It relied on traditional methods and generic projections. There was no mention of cutting-edge sustainability features or innovative energy integration. During the joint Q&A, a Celestial board member asked, "Would you be able to integrate advanced energy management systems like those used in our headquarters?" Carson shifted uncomfortably. "We'd need to bring in outside consultants for that." "And the cost implications," the board member followed up. Carson hesitated. "We'd have to do some research and get back to you." "If I may," I interjected calmly. "Based on our implementation of similar systems, the initial cost would increase by approximately 7% with a full return on investment in under 5 years due to reduced energy expenses." The room went quiet for a beat. My delivery was confident, precise, and critically based on lived experience. The Celestial team nodded, clearly impressed. Even Thomas gave a small smile. When the meeting concluded, Thomas thanked both teams and said Celestial would reach a decision within 2 weeks. As the room emptied, Gerald approached me slowly. His expression was unreadable, no longer angry, but not exactly warm. "We need to talk," he said quietly. "Privately." I nodded. I kept my posture professional. My voice, even though my heart raced beneath the surface. "I'll meet you at Trinity River Park in an hour." As I watched Gerald leave with Carson, who gave me a hesitant, conflicted nod, a strange stillness settled over me. Whatever Celestial developments ultimately decided, something deeper had shifted. The confrontation I'd both feared and, in some strange way, needed had finally happened. Years of unspoken tension were dragged into the open, exposed under the harsh light of professional truth. The crisp edge of late autumn in Dallas nipped at my coat as I walked the winding paths of Trinity River Park. Leaves swirled in golden spirals across the pavement. I found my father sitting alone on a bench near the water's shoulders, hunched slightly, hands clasped together. He looked smaller. Somehow, less like the towering man from my childhood and more like someone wrestling with a world that no longer made sense. "Where's Carson?" I asked, sitting beside him. "I told him this was between us," he said, still staring straight ahead. "You've been working with Celestial all this time." It wasn't a question, but I answered anyway. "Yes, for over a year now." He exhaled slowly. "Why didn't you tell us?" The question struck me as absurd. "Tell you when, Dad? During all those heartfelt conversations we never had, or maybe at the family dinners I haven't been invited to since you locked me out of the business." He flinched but didn't argue. "What you did today was unprofessional," he muttered, "using your connection with Thomas to undermine Rivers Electric." I let out a dry, humorless laugh. That connection was earned, not inherited, through innovation, hard work, and results. Thomas didn't even know we were related until recently. He turned eyes narrow. "I find that hard to believe." "That's your choice," I said calmly, "but it's the truth." I looked directly at him, not blinking. I never used the Rivers name to get ahead. Honestly, I almost dropped it, so I wouldn't be tied to a company that dismissed me out of pure, outdated bias. He finally looked back at me. His face, so often set in stone, now held something murky. Frustration, confusion, regret. "You really think I shut you out because you're a woman?" he asked quietly. "You told me flat out that construction is a man's world. You offered me a receptionist job with an MBA while Carson with no degree got VP. What else am I supposed to think?" He didn't answer right away. The breeze stirred fallen leaves around our feet. "I was trying to protect you," he said finally, his voice lower. "Construction. It's brutal. It ruins people, breaks families. Your grandfather died young, trying to build this company." He looked down at his hands. "I've sacrificed everything to keep it afloat, my health, your mother, any sense of balance. I didn't want that for you." I shook my head. "So you protected me by denying me the one thing I actually wanted." "That's not protection, Dad. That's control." He sighed. "Carson was always tougher. More like me. I thought he could handle the weight." Gerald rubbed his face with both hands, his posture sagging with weariness. "But I was wrong. About a lot of things." The words, indirect as they were, caught me completely off guard. "What do you mean?" I asked quietly. He stared out at the water, voice rough. "Rivers Electric is struggling, Madeline. We've lost longtime clients to firms like Apex. The Westridge project after Carson's errors nearly sank us. We're still trying to recover." He paused, the weight of it all heavy in his silence. "We need this celestial contract. But after today," his voice trailed off. "Despite everything, despite the pain, the rejection, I felt a flicker of sympathy. This company wasn't just concrete and contracts. It was our family's legacy going back 3 generations. Your proposal today wasn't bad, Dad," I said gently. "It was just outdated." He gave a hollow chuckle. "Yeah, we haven't evolved. Meanwhile, firms like Apex are rewriting the rules." We sat there for a long time, not speaking. The tension slowly shifted, no longer sharp with judgment, but heavy with reflection. Then I said something I hadn't voiced in years. I never wanted to compete against Rivers Electric. That was never my goal. He turned to me, startled. "Then why Apex?" I wanted to help modernize the company, be part of its future. But when you shut me out, I found another way to use what I'd learned. I never wanted to replace what you built. I just wanted to help it grow." He looked down, shoulders tense. "Even after how I treated you. Family's complicated," I said simply, "but the Rivers name still means something to me." He was quiet again. Then with what looked like considerable effort, he added, "That dashboard system Thomas mentioned. The one you developed, it's impressive." A pause. Then he exhaled, eyes still on the water. "I spent so long protecting a legacy, I forgot to evolve it. You didn't. Coming from my father, that counted as a monumental compliment." I nodded, letting the moment land without embellishment. "A small crack in the wall we'd both built." He hesitated, then said, "The sustainability elements in your proposal, would they really give the kind of returns you projected?" "Yes. We've already seen it on the Celestial headquarters. I can walk you through the numbers." He nodded slowly. "I might take you up on that." 2 days later, my phone buzzed. It was a number I didn't expect. "Hey, Sam, it's Carson." His voice was strained but steady. "Look, I need your help." I didn't say anything, letting him continue. "Dad won't admit it, but I will. I'm in over my head with these new building codes and client demands, especially the sustainability side of things." He paused, then added, "Could we meet?" Just to talk." That coffee meeting with my brother turned out to be the beginning of something I never expected, a slow, cautious reconciliation. Over lattes and nervous laughter, Carson admitted he'd been overwhelmed by the shifting landscape of construction. "I never wanted to push you out," he said. "I just didn't want to admit you might know things I didn't." Over the next few weeks, I worked closely with Carson, providing guidance and resources to help him adapt to the evolving demands of modern construction. I kept things professional, But with time, our once fractured sibling relationship began to heal layer by layer. When Celestial Developments officially awarded the Parkside District contract to Apex, as I'd expected, I decided to call Gerald myself. I thought you'd rather hear it from me than through the industry rumor mill, I told him. There was a pause. Then, congratulations, Madeline. It was the better proposal. It wasn't warm, but it was honest. And coming from him, it meant something. A month later, Gregory Barnes called me into his office, looking particularly contemplative. Rivers Electric reached out, he said. They're interested in collaborating, consulting with our sustainability division on future projects. I raised an eyebrow. My father's idea. No, Gregory said, Carson's. But your father approved it. I want to know, are you comfortable moving forward? I considered it. As long as it's a true partnership built on mutual respect, then yes, I'm ready. The collaboration began slowly but gained momentum. I primarily worked with Carson, who proved more open-minded than I expected. He asked thoughtful questions, absorbed feedback, and soon began championing sustainable upgrades himself. Gerald kept his distance, at first clearly wary. But as our methods started improving, Rivers Electric's project results, fewer delays, better energy efficiency, stronger client interest, he grew more involved. Not micromanaging, but curious. 6 months into the partnership, Gregory summoned me again. The board just approved it this morning, he said with a smile. Vice President of Innovation and Sustainability. It's yours. The promotion reflected more than just my technical contributions. It honored my leadership diplomacy and ability to bring together two competing firms in a way that shifted the industry's narrative. Trade publications took note. Articles spotlighted Apex and Rivers Electric's partnership. Others profiled my rise, once shut out of her family's company, now a force driving innovation across the region. The day the news went public, my phone buzzed with a message from a number I hadn't saved. Your grandfather would be proud. I am, too. Dad. I sat still for a moment, absorbing it. That simple sentence patched something in me I hadn't realized was still cracked. The validation I once craved no longer defined me, but receiving it finally on my terms mattered. That Sunday, Tracy hosted a family dinner, the first one I'd attended since that fateful night 2 years ago. The atmosphere was different. Gerald was quieter, more thoughtful. Carson and I talked shop, not as rivals, but as peers. My mom beamed with quiet, vindicated pride. When Gerald raised his glass, I held my breath. To Madeline, he said, voice low but firm. Who taught an old builder new tricks and helped secure our family's future? Not the way any of us imagined, but better than we deserved. As I looked around the table, I realized the journey had been worth every painful step. The rejection that once broke me had pushed me to build something stronger than I ever dreamed. Sometimes the doors that close force us to build our own entryways, one so solid, so masterfully designed, they can't help but be recognized. Because the greatest structures begin with the courage to lay your own foundation. If you've made it this far, thank you for listening, for witnessing, and for believing that stories like mine matter. I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below. Share your thoughts, your own experience, or simply leave a word of encouragement. This journey wasn't just about rising in my career, it was about reclaiming a voice I was once told didn't belong in the room. If anything in this story resonated with you, I invite you to subscribe and continue walking this path with me. Your support means more than you know. And if I could leave you with one piece of advice, it's this: don't wait for someone else to open the door for you. Sometimes the people we love can't see the full version of who we are not because we're not worthy, but because their vision is limited by fear, tradition, or pride. That doesn't make your dream any less valid. Build your own space. Lay your own foundation. Make it strong enough that others can't help but notice. You don't have to prove yourself to people who refuse to see you, but if you do the work for yourself, you'll never need their permission again.